Through the mists comes forth RPGaDay! In the year 2021, RPGaDay comes back for its 8th year. A time in August when every day we tackle another question or topic by answering in a way that uplifts the gaming community and answers questions people might have about this crazy hobby of ours that serves to build the community and bring it up, that many of us make blogs about, video blogs, art, or great works. In celebration of the community of gamers, I welcome you to RPGaDay 2021. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Rob, sometimes known as Omnisci and sometimes as the Dungeon Tutor. Today I am here in my basement lair to talk about another topic for RPGaDay 2021. This is the 13th day, and the topic is flood. That's appropriate. Now, those of you who are new to me on my channel and don't really know me wouldn't know that in the year 2008, this area where I live, it was flooded. It was the scene of a absolutely brutal, long corridor of thunderstorms that dropped more rain than I've ever seen at one time over a course of 14 hours. It was just a constant, massively heavy downpour. You could not see to drive. It was that bad. It was just, you look outside and it was just gray sheets of just down, straight, heavy, fat droplets downpouring as hard as it could to get as much water down onto the ground as possible. The roads were awash very quickly, very, very quickly. And due to some, I've heard, potential mismanagement from the water control, wastewater control, basically the water system got completely backed up, that all the rainwater should have drained out through the plant out to the lake, because I live at the foot of one of the larger inland lakes, Lake Winnebago. And instead of going there, it went up through the sewer system and drainage system. Now, you know, toilets and things were fine, but water came shooting up my drains down here in my basement. I've got two, and water just started pouring out of them. And it was all I could do to get things up off the floor as quickly as I could to try to save everything that I could. And now, okay, I understand this is a first world problem. I know for an awful lot of people, you don't have, you know, basements or things like this where, you know, we can keep our stuff. Some people don't have enough stuff to have worried about stuff like this. But for me, this down here is where I keep my stuff. And a lot of it is, you know, precious role-playing games that are out of print and can't easily be replaced, or just stuff, you know? And again, it's a first world problem. There are plenty of people who say, somebody who's gone through a fire and has lost everything they owned, they realize exactly how much stuff is worth, which compared to their lives and the lives of their loved ones, isn't all that much. But if you haven't been in that situation, stuff can mean an awful lot to you. We attach our own significances to the things around us and the things we own, and it was a trying time. It was one that has left some pretty deep scars on me. I really have a hard time enjoying a thunderstorm anymore, as long as I still live in this house, that I know the potential is still there for that to happen again. Now, again, we've never even come close to that we've had periods last year where the water table was pretty high, and I had a hard time sleeping. I'm not going to lie. But the flood affected me quite deeply. It made me come to grips with exactly where my priorities lay. I mean, right now, if I had, God forbid that this happened, but if I had another flood like that, I could not save everything. And I would lose quite a bit. I'd lose game consoles. I would lose probably some of my out-of-print books. The flood was up to about 2.5 feet in my basement, which is not... I know floods can fill basements, can go, over houses and stuff. As far as things go, we weren't bad. This was not terrible. But it struck at the core of how permanent the stuff you have is. We spend a lot of time deluding ourselves that the stuff we have control over whether or not we have it. Where all it takes is an errant spark. Your house can go up. If you've done everything you can to make sure that your house can never go up, maybe there's a way of completely fireproofing a house. I don't know. But something can always happen. Mother Nature can do something and you can lose everything. And understanding that is hard because many of us in the modern world fight really hard to imagine that we can make everything safe. That we can make everything around us be in our control. And sometimes that's why we kind of like living vicarious fantasies where that's simply not possible anymore, like zombie apocalypse movies, where you can, I suppose, imagine somebody who's rich enough that can have a compound that they can live in that is secure enough that they could keep it free of, a veritable sea of zombies attacking them. Maybe. I tend to not even believe that unless somebody's got something really exotic, like a modern castle going on that I am not aware of. I think everybody would be pretty much borked in that kind of a situation. But the idea that pretty soon it's just what you have on you that you can trust, because everything else could be taken away from you like that. Or even worse, that's why zombies are so pernicious as a thought, that somebody that you know, somebody that you trust, could get bitten and turn into one of them, and now you suddenly have to possibly kill a person that you were just relying on to stay alive because they're going to turn. There's nothing you can do, and the most merciful thing you can do is maybe put them down or send them out. Hopefully, maybe they can kill a few more zombies when they're out there, but eventually the hunger will cause them to come back, and you may have to put down your former friend. And there's a lot of pathos in that, certainly. But it's not a world that we'd want to live in, obviously. Yeah, I see people as like, some people get excited by the idea of a zombie apocalypse. Not the smart ones. Nobody who realizes that out of anything that you have, anything you enjoy, unless you are full-on nihilistic, you want everything torn down, you want to be the one standing there with a gasoline can and the lighter and giggling. No. You may think you're pretty bad and tough and maybe you've got guns, but it's not going to end well. It doesn't end well for anybody in that circumstance. So you can delude yourself for a little while, but it is what it is. So, yeah, that's kind of my thought on floods and what that means to me. Now, it's probably not going to be a similar occurrence to everybody else, but that's really, I think, something that's worth exploring in a game setting, is the idea that floods and other massive circumstances in reality that can cause you to lose whatever you've owned, whatever you've trusted, whatever you've built up. Think of a place that is being plagued with wildfires, where you could get a notice, hey, wildfires are coming, we can't save your house, you need to get everything that you can out if you've got enough time. If you don't have enough time, they knock on the middle of the night and say, you all just got to get out of here and get out as fast as you can because everything is going to get eaten up by the fire. Maybe you grab a few things on your way out. What do you grab? Have you ever thought about that? A lot of people have. But, you know, it's a horrifying thought for those of us. Again, first world issue. I understand that. But it's kind of a thought. You could lose everything like that. And floods really do remind us of that. Because you can have the finest house. You can spend incredible amounts of money to make sure that it shouldn't catch fire from anything natural. You know, your electrical's all fine and everything like that. Your flammable stuff is taken care of. Everything is well made and everything. That's within your control. You can make sure that everything around your house, you don't have any trees that could get knocked over in a windstorm or something like that. So, you know, your house is safe from something like that. Maybe you put up a fence so that cars can't come barreling through. A drunk driver can come run into your house. You can do things to protect it. But ultimately, something can happen. A tornado can come and knock your house down. A flood can come up and submerge your house and destroy everything inside. Ultimately, we are pretty much at the mercy of circumstances outside of our control. We spend a lot of our time deluding ourselves that that isn't the case, or just praying and hoping that that won't ever be the case, and such a thin shield that is. But when it comes down to it, it's just stuff, and we really kind of, I think, are benefited from occasionally thinking and indulging in what would happen if that's gone. That underpinning of security that we built up is ripped away, and we kind of have to deal with that reality. I was open to me in a very small way in the flood that I had, but it left some pretty deep marks. I'm not going to lie. What might it do to your characters, and what might it do to your play and your experience? And if you've never experienced anything like that before, trying to project yourself into that place and swimming around in that, might be an interesting thing to try out once in a while. So, anyhow, that's my thoughts on flood. Thank you for joining me for this rather uncomfortable topic. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least maybe done a little thinking on your own. If you did, feel free to leave a comment talking about maybe a similar occurrence that you've had. You know, I've opened up about mine. It'd be interesting to hear if other people have had similar experiences. And rather than just, I could be a shoulder to cry on if something like that recently has happened to you, certainly. But I think it'd be interesting to also find out in a role-playing aspect how you've ever used this concept, or what your players have ever dealt with if they had to suffer from loss outside of their control. It's hard. It really can be. And sometimes that can lead to resentment if you're doing it in a role-playing game, with players resenting their game master for wiping out all of their stuff. But life isn't always fair. And that's something we might end up talking about at some point too. But until that time, thanks again. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you haven't enjoyed my previous videos for RPGaDay, feel free. I've made several. I'm going to continue to make them throughout the month of August. And, I have plenty of other stuff too. So if you like that, either stick here in the Lair of Omnisci, or check me out in Dungeon Tutor, where I talk about things for people who have questions about role-playing games and want to know more about how to play these things. So thank you very much. I'm Rob. I'm also Omnisci. I'm also the Dungeon Tutor. Thanks one and all, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Farewell.